No sport is as logistically challenging as motorsports. While equipment matters in every sport, in motorsports and Formula One in particular, the human is only half, being the athlete, where the car is the other half. The performance of a Formula One car is directly linked to having the right components in the right place at the right time, so the logistics to get these parts at the right time anywhere across the globe is part of the competition. Formula One may be a sport, but it's not all fun and games. The Formula One team that has the highest value at this moment in time is by the name of Scuderia Ferrari, which is worth over $1.3 billion. The wealthier teams, like Ferrari, are able to spend more on transportation to bring equipment and spare parts, which can make the difference between winning or losing during a race weekend. Formula One can be seen as the most international sports competition. With its 23 yearly races this season, the teams travel across 5 continents, with as little as a week between some of the races. 10 teams compete in the current Formula One championship, and despite it taking place worldwide, it is by all measures a European sport. This is due to the fact that 9 of the 10 teams are registered in and operate out of Europe. Only the American team by the name of Haas F1 is based in North Carolina. They operate a secondary factory in the UK, so that its staff doesn't have to travel all the way back to the US between each of the European races, that in recent years have been held consecutively. Thanks to this, the European part of the season is, compared to the rest, relatively easy logistically, since within Europe the transport can be done by road. The cost of shipping by truck is way cheaper than shipping by plane. Therefore, teams can be seen bringing entire buildings with them to the European races. These buildings are what they call motorhomes. These motorhomes aren't just RVs for the drivers, they are enormous structures that can be 3 stories high and hold facilities like offices, hospitality areas, bars, and even a restaurant with a complete kitchen. All of that packs into a number of trucks and can be disassembled in less than 2 days. Along with all the other equipment, including cars, spare parts, and electronics, convoys of trucks per team drive all across Europe before each European race. Typically, races are held every 2 weekends on Sunday, which gives teams plenty of time to relocate before activity begins on the Thursday before a Grand Prix. But from time to time, the schedule is tighter and races take place 2 weekends in a row. This leads to bigger logistical challenges as teams only have 3 full days to break down, transport, and reassemble their equipment at the next track, which can be up to 800 kilometers apart. Even worse are the periods where Formula One management, or F1 for short, planned 3 weekends with 3 races in a row. These weekends are also known as a triple header. During the 2023 season, there will be 2 triple headers, one in Europe and the other being across America. On May 21st, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix takes place at Imola. Then the next weekend, the Monaco Grand Prix will be held at, as you probably guessed, Monaco. The weekend after Monaco, the Spanish Grand Prix, held at the Circuit Barcelona-Catalunya, will be the last race in this triple header. The hardest part about this triple header is the logistical challenge to drive all the equipment across Europe in just a matter of days. For this journey, each truck will be manned by 3 drivers, so that while one drives, the other 2 can sleep in an RV that accompanies them on their way to the next track. That way, the trucks can drive continuously, only needing to stop for refueling. But again, these races are logistically easy compared to the ones outside of Europe. The races outside of Europe are known as so-called flyaway races. Just like with the European races, the majority of flyaway races occur within 2 weeks between each other. But from time to time, races are scheduled on back-to-back weekends, thousands of kilometers apart. These back-to-back flyaway races are the most logistically difficult weeks of a Formula One season. On Sunday, the 30th of April, the Azerbaijan Grand Prix will be held at Baku, Azerbaijan. Then just 7 days later, the following weekend, being the Miami Grand Prix, will be held in Miami, the United States of America. Almost 7,000 miles between the racetracks, and yet, just like with every race, everything comes down on Sunday night in Azerbaijan and needs to be operational again by Thursday morning in Miami. A good thing is that Miami's time zone is 9 hours behind of Azerbaijan, which is effectively 9 hours more to set up. However, the planning for this logistical nightmare already began months before. Around January, 2 months before the first race of the season, each of the 10 teams pack up 5 sets of shipping containers. Each of these sets hold their overseas kits, carrying things like furniture, appliances, cooking equipment, and some elements of their garages. They send these less valuable pieces of equipment by sea as it's massively less expensive than taking them by plane. The number of containers per team varies, as the wealthier teams like Red Bull and Mercedes will take more, but in general each team takes about 3 40-foot containers. Of course, ocean shipping is slower, but since there are 5 sets, there is always one at the right time at the right track. That January shipment sent the first 5 kits to the first 5 flyway races, being Sakhir, Bahrain; Jeddah, Saudi Arabia; Melbourne, Australia; Baku, Azerbaijan; and Miami, United States. When a race weekend is completed, its kit will be packed up and sent to the next flyway race destination who didn't receive a kit. For instance, the Bahrain one will go to Canada, where the Saudi Arabian one will go to Singapore, the Australian one to Japan, the Azerbaijan one to Qatar, and the Miami kit will go to Austin, Texas. Towards the end of the season, when there are no more tracks to send kits to, they're sent back to the team's home bases for the winter. At the racetrack, the Formula 1 logistics team's downtime is actually during the race itself, but for a flyway double-header weekend, the work already begins on Thursday before the race. That's when each team's logistics manager starts making their tear-down plan, deciding in which order and into which containers their different pieces of equipment should go. Once that is completed, there isn't really a lot to do until Sunday. On Sunday morning, before the race even starts, the pack-up begins. Many of the spare parts cannot be used during the race, because a team is not going to replace an engine or chassis during the Grand Prix, so those are the first parts to be packed into containers. The cars are always subjected to a post-race inspection by the FIA to make sure cars are legal according to the regulations. All the equipment that the teams need at the next race first are put in one of 3 priority pallets. Together, each team's priority pallets fill up the first plane that heads to the next race. As soon as these are packed, these will be transported directly to the airport. As that plane then takes off, the final pallets are being packed up at the departing racetrack. Only about 6 to 8 hours after the drop of the checkered flag, all pallets are packed up and on their way to the airport. By midday on Monday, all 6 of the DHL Boeing 747 used to transport the team's equipment to the next race are in the air. These planes are being chartered by the FOM, but the teams still pay for the costs. Also on Monday, all the staff starts their journey to the next venue. Many of the lower-level staff just flies on normal commercial flights, while some of the higher-profile drivers fly private between the 2 races. When the cargo lands, it will be unloaded and brought to customs. By midnight on Monday, all the priority freight is on its way to the racetrack. Overnight, logistics workers arrange the different teams' freight into their respective paddocks. No team is allowed to touch their pallets until all the other teams' freight has arrived. This for fairness purposes and safety to assure that there aren't people around as pallets are being unloaded and moved. By Tuesday morning, it's game on for the assembly crews. At this point, each team has their 3 priority pallets and their C kit. In their priority pallets, teams do not put the highest value or most important cargo, but they put the things they need to assemble first, being the bare structures of their garages. That includes the core of their electrical system, the wall paneling, and the majority of the IT and communications equipment. By Tuesday evening, the basic garage build process is done and the track is once again made inaccessible to the teams as the non-priority pallets are being delivered overnight. Early Wednesday morning around 6 a.m., the teams then are allowed back at the track and begin work on the final assembly of their respective garage. Only after about 4 hours, by late morning, all the different teams' garages are fully functional. This means that Formula 1 teams successfully pack up, ship their equipment, and reassemble their paddocks in just 58 hours, while tracks can be up to 7,000 miles apart. Thanks to cautious planning and trained workers, Formula One is able to pull this off during a season. So that's it. Now you know how a Formula One team is able to tear down their paddock and build it back up at another venue in under 60 hours all over the globe. Were you surprised by how fast F1 teams work? Let us know by leaving your reaction in the comments down below. And as always, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and click the bell icon so you don't miss any new videos.